Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday morning. I hope your week has gotten off to a good start Monday and Tuesday. And I just pray that Wednesday today is a great, blessed day for you. I hope later that you get a chance to click on our youth Bible study as well as Brother Josh's Bible study in the book of John that he's been walking through for a while now. Those should be up this evening around 6 or 6:30, so don't miss those tonight. But before that, before we get into the Bible studies as a church, I would like for us to spend some time in the Word with the Lord today. And so our reading for today is a passage that's kind of been in the background and in the forefront of what we've been studying recently. It's 2 Samuel 7. If you remember, last week we read 2 Samuel 6, and also last week we saw a passage about David becoming king. And if you remember that, we talked about God had promised David that he would rule over Israel and that he would be the prince and then would be the king, the ruler of Israel. And in 2 Samuel 7 is where we see that promise, where God speaks to Nathan and tells him to go relay this message to David. That he asked David, will he give him a place for his spirit to dwell? Will he follow him? Will he lead these people? And as you read this passage today in 2 Samuel chapter 7, there's a couple observations that I made just reading through this that I hope you can see and that you can apply to your life. And one first comes out of right here in the very beginning of this passage in verse 8. The Lord said, I took you from the pasture, from following the sheep, so that now you should be prince over my people of Israel. And when I read this, I just thought about how God entrusted David first with his sheep. He entrusted him to be a shepherd with sheep, and he walked with him and he obeyed God. He was a good shepherd as far as his vocation went, but then from there, God called him to be king. And I know sometimes we can overlook small things in our life, looking forward and looking ahead to the big things, but just a lesson that I think we can learn from David here is that if we're not trusted with the small things of God, if we're not trusted with the lowly position of being the shepherd, then we're never going to be called or be blessed to a higher position of greater responsibility. We must first take care of the small things before the big things. And the second observation I made in this passage is the second half of it. God has told David he's going to be king, he's going to rule over Israel, and David's response could have easily been, wow, look how good of a job I've done. Look how good of a leader I've been to this point. Look how faithful of a servant I've been to the Lord. But instead, we find David gives a prayer and a prayer of gratitude. That David recognizes that everything he has, everything he is, every position that he's being called to is solely because of the Lord. And just like David in our lives, sometimes it's easy to look at when we get a promotion or when we get a raise or when we accomplish a tough task, it's easy to look at ourselves and say, look at the great work that I've done. But we must realize that we only do any good thing through the work of the Holy Spirit of God. It is God who works in us and through us. So I hope that you see these things and even more today as you're reading 2 Samuel chapter 7 with you and your family and whoever you're with. So know that we're praying for you and that we love you, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.